Welcome back, baseball fans. The 1973-76 off-season look. We got another card set analysis for 1976. We started this a week ago, looked at the American League East, the American League North. Now we'll finish up the American League in the Midwest and West. We have a look at 4 potential players to be kept, and the rookie class. So we'll begin with the White Sox. Their 4 keepers are Dick Allen, Terry Forster, Carlos May, Wilbur Wood. Dick Allen's still playing, of course, in 76. He's with the Phillies now, and he's got a decent card, but of course we'll take one of the earlier White Sox cards. Terry Forster is turned into a starting pitcher, and he's just a guy here, nothing really fantastic about him. I don't think we want to do that with the White Sox. Get him with an earlier card. Carlos May is still hanging in here. His batting average is getting worse every year. He's on to the Yankees now anyway. Probably won't take that one. And Wilbur Wood. Well, Wilbur actually, what I really like about this is that I like a lefty who gets righties out better than lefties. This is a pretty good card. 4 years out from his present card. Oh, I see what happened. He was hurt this year. But that's okay. I mean, okay, so he wouldn't be a number 1 or 2. He'd be a 3. I don't know if they can afford him to be a 3. Eventually they will, though. I mean, I would still go with a 73, 4, or 5 for Wood. But then when 76 rolls around, I'm not opposed to this card at all. You know, he'd be a great number 3. That's an effective pitcher right there. Starter 8. Take advantage of the short schedule. But with that, we're hoping that they can find some rookies here. Here's Kevin Bell, a third baseman. It's lefties very well. Nothing spectacular. Mike Cubbage, left-handed hitting third baseman, would be a nice platoon with Kevin Bell, but I think we have a third baseman. We still have Bill Melton, so don't need him. They got the rights to Cliff Johnson, which would be a nice get. Cliff Johnson's rights are all over the place. He's with Houston. He eventually is a Yankee. He gets to Toronto, Oakland. He could pretty much go anywhere. So he's with Houston here. I'm not sure they really desire Cliff Johnson. But this guy, this looks like the guy they go and get. Lamar Johnson hits 320, and you're trying to beat the Oakland A's. Oakland had Mike Hegan playing first base with hitting 329. He's gone. The White Sox can get Lamar Johnson. He's hitting 320. That could be the switch here. You got Dick Allen, first base DH. You have Tony Muser. Who do you have at DH on this team? Carlos May. Maybe it's time to just cut bait with Carlos May and have Lamar Johnson be the DH and just make sure you get enough outfielders. I don't know, but you got to get a 320 bat in the lineup, particularly one that's better against righties and lefties. So that's probably one of their picks in 1976. They're pretty much set at catcher with Brian Downing and Bob Stinson, but this is a nice Bruce Kim card, believe it or not. -1 arm. There's nothing wrong with this guy. 256, 263. That's a decent card right there. Orlando Ramirez, a shortstop. Not much there. Francisco Barrios, starter 8. He's a starter 8. ERA's up there, 4.31. He could help the team. The White Sox, their goal is to beat Oakland. It's almost like they can't settle for just the ordinary guy, you know? Chris Snap, oh boy, not very good there. But Pete Vukovich. Some intriguing players who have futures. Vukovich certainly has a nice future. The only thing obvious here is Lamar Johnson. Yeah, you got to get that card, and beyond that, it's all scattershot for the White Sox. All right, next up, your Kansas City Royals. They should be moving into a very good era here. This is where they should start taking control over the Midwest, you would think. It's Mayberry, Marty Patton, Lou Piniella, Paul Splittorff. This is the bad year for Mayberry. He's good in 73 and 75, but in the even number of years, he's not very good. This is probably Marty Patton's last good year as a starter. He becomes a good reliever. Look at this, 249. I didn't think he had a good year starting left in him, but he's as a starter 7. They have to figure this thing out, because you still haven't brought Dennis Leonard into the team yet. They have to figure out what they want to do with Patton. Reliever or starter. Lou Piniella. Nothing special about Lou here. He's good against lefties. It's 281. Just 3 home runs. He's the Yankees' property now. And Splittorff. Starter 6. He's got a 20-win season, I think, in 73 or 4. 3.96 ERA. That's okay. Well, really, Marty Patton stands out in this mix. I didn't realize he was this good. And when I saw the ERA, I was assuming it was from the bullpen, but they got to figure out how to manage this pitching staff. All right. We have Tom Poquette, nice little corner outfielder hitting around 290, right? 302. Very young John Wathan, also hitting around, oh, the percentages aren't very good, are they? 235. Adjusted average. Huh. Frank White is a 2 at second base now, but the bat's still not there. And now Dennis Leonard. This might be the final promotion. We've been waiting for this guy. You wait too long, you're going to lose him. So you got to get him into the league this year. You've been dragging your heels, waiting for the best Leonard card to appear. And this is probably going to be, I mean, he's going to be a great starter, innings eater for a team that scores a lot of runs. But you're not going to get a significantly better ERA than that. And this guy, Littell, might be the best player here as a closer. No home runs for a closer, with some walks. This might be Littell's best year in Kansas City as a closer. 104 innings with a 2.08 ERA. Not bad. Nice little pieces here for Kansas City. All right, next up, we're looking at Milwaukee. Milwaukee's in a interim roster guys here. The guys who will be Brewers aren't around yet, so they've got some temporary fillers. Al Downing, Steve Hovley, Darryl Thomas, Don Wilson. Al Downing's now a reliever by 76, and a pretty decent one. Fairly decent one. Darryl Thomas is a better 1975. That's not pretty good. That's not good. And that's it. Well, that's not good. Steve Hovley and Don Wilson are gone. That means they have to go rookies in 76. And they really have to start pushing that, Gorman Thomas, Lezcano, those guys. A couple of those guys are probably going to have to come whether they're ready or not, since the keepers are so weak. Alan Ashby was a switch hitting catcher. Back here was just batting left-handed. He's got power, plus 1 arm. He's all right. Phil Garner. They got the rights to Phil. He was actually in Oakland A. And a pretty good one. Full-time 2 second baseman. Oddly enough, they have Darryl Thomas from the previous year that they're going to promote. So they can really bury Garner. Have Thomas for 1 year, then go to Garner. Or then hopefully by then Molitor will be around, or Gantner. Tim Johnson's more of a utility infielder than a starter. Von Joshua has been with a few teams. He was with Giants, now he's a Brewer. Had a better 75 with the Giants. Giants are going to add the 75 Joshua, so this is a moot at this point. All right, here is a guy, and I think it might be Lezcano time. This is a fine card. He's a 2-corner outfielder. He can play both ways. It's around 267. 285, actually. Doesn't have power versus lefties, but he does have the walks. Good defensive player. B stealer, 15 runner. Yeah, it's his time. You got to get him started. He'll get better through 79, 76, 78, and 9. So I think Lescano gets in. But Martinez, he is sort of blocked by Darryl Porter and Charlie Moore. So I don't know where he's going to go. Yeah, the rights to Roland Office. Good defensive center fielder, is a one-way player. We have a defensive third baseman, Roy Steiger, not much stick. Lefty reliever, Jerry Augustine, but he's a starter here. It's actually not that bad. 3.30 ERA, 172 innings. Hey, that's not bad at all for a starter 7 lefty. They lost a lefty starter and are going to replace him with Al Downing. Or you could use Al Downing in the bullpen and put Augustine in the rotation. Pete Broberg, just an ordinary guy here, gets knocked around by lefties. $4.99. Bill Castro in the bullpen, kind of a closer, puts men on base, but could still close out games. $3.47. We got Bill Travers, a starter, 8 on 3 days rest. Yeah, there you go. That's the Bill Travers card to get. We saw a 75 card, didn't like it. 76, we like it. And the lefty. So he trumps Augustine, who might trump Downing. Suddenly, this team is very deep in left-handed pitching, something that is a little bit of a surprise. And notice how big their minor league system was. It's really crazy how it works out sometimes. Teams just like, in one off season, they add a ton of guys. Other teams don't. Some teams have 2 guys on their rookie class. Some teams have 12 guys. It's the way Major League Baseball. It's got pluses and minuses all across the sport. Got to stick to history when you can. The Twins are keeping Bert Blyleven, Bobby Darwin, Dave Goltz, and Jim Cott. Jim Cott's an intriguing player. We've had 2 different trade scenarios with him. First, let's look at Blyleven. And the good thing with Blyleven, he's got multiple great seasons. And this is another one. 2.87 ERA on 3 days rest. Bobby Darwin, we like him as a corner outfielder in 73 or 74. Dave Goltz, is he on 3 days rest yet? Yes, he is. So you can move Goltz on to 3 days rest with Blyleven. And here's Jim Cott. He wins a bunch of games with 2 different teams other than the Twins. So he has a great 75 with the Chi Sox. He's got a great 76 with the Phillies. So here is the move to make is to trade him to the Phillies. It's hard to imagine that you would trade Jim Cott to a division rival White Sox team, particularly a White Sox team that's trying to move up to the Oakland A. In other words, you basically challenge the White Sox to make a lopsided deal that's in the Twins' favor just to get Cott, or they're going to ship him to the Phillies. I don't think Cott's really that significantly good for the White Sox to waste a lot of capital. The White Sox just stick with what they got and don't, risk a bad deal. They should be fine. Lyman Bostock. Finally, they can fill that gap they've had in center field. They haven't had a good center fielder in a while in Minnesota. Now they will. With Lyman Bostock. And Dan Ford. Nice little tandem here. Now they got some outfielders showing up. Plus Bombo Rivera might be here soon. They have Larry Heisel and they got Bobby Darwin. So now they have enough outfielders. They had one of the weakest outfields a year ago. Phil Mankowski, third baseman, who actually hits pretty darn well here. So 271, but it's loaded over on the right side. Bobby Randall, a 3 second baseman. He'll eventually be a 2 second baseman. Great bat handler. Good number 2 hitter, slap hitter there. Yeah, that's a fine card. He could start, but I think they have a second baseman, if I'm not mistaken. Roy Smalley's stick isn't here yet. He's with the Rangers, too, I think. No, he's a Twin. Well, 259 is not bad. 76 walks, but just 3 home runs. Well, eventually hit 20. And then Butch Winnegar, switch hitting catcher, but they have Phil Ruth and they had, well, they traded Mitterwald, so Winnegar could replace Mitterwald on the team. They got the rights of Joel Youngblood away from the Reds. Youngblood goes from the Reds. He's a Met. He's a Giant. I think he's an Expo. He's all over baseball. Not very good here. He's still very young. Here's an interesting player. In the midst of all this, you got a pitcher who can pitch on 3 days rest. Not this year. In 75 he does, though. And he kind of blazes on the scene and then blazes out of it the following year. Pete Redfern's probably not ready yet. 351, actually. Starter 6. Stan Wall, the lefty who gets lefties out. Now, here's the statistical thing. You're going to say 360, 50 innings is actually pretty good. And a lefty who gets lefties out. This guy will probably get in the league. Whether it's in year 1, I'm not really sure about that. But that card will always get in. We're always looking for left-handed talent. We can get it. That's a pretty deep system for the Twins, finally. They finally had to say goodbye to Tony Oliva and, Killebrew and those old 65 Twins and just move into the 1970s. So, all right, I'm going to take a quick pause and then we'll get into the American League West. Okay, now we'll go to the American League West, beginning with the Angels. They're going to have a couple nice players here. Beginning with Dave LaRoche. Outstanding closer. There you go. Angels are one of these teams that really have to be careful about how they build their roster. They're probably the best chance anybody has to compete with Oakland in this division. They have more talent accessible than the Rangers and the Mariners, so LaRoche will certainly help. And then you have this guy as well. This is the one-year wonder, Gary Ross, who has a very strong 76. It's his only strong year. He's an ERA of 3, can pitch on 3 days rest. Doesn't give up a lot of homers, you see there. Doesn't put men on base either. Really good to get righties out, and he's a starter 8, starter 7. So you got Ryan, Ross, Tanana, Hassler. That's why they shipped Bill Singer out. And then here we have Ryan. But he's got a better 73 and 74. See, those walks are starting to creep up already. How many do we have? $183 walks, 193 hits. But it's only 284 innings. It's funny, eventually he's over 300 innings, over 200 hits, and over 200 walks. But, yeah, it's just... This doesn't work out in Strat-O-Matic very well for when you walk a lot of guys. It's just the way the game is. Let's look at their rookies. With LaRoche and Ross, it's not that important to find rookies here. Dave Collins gets his career started here. Good top of the lineup switch hitter. Not much defense. Sam Ewing, just a part-time player. Jimmy Quirk, utility player. Eventually utility catcher, but he's not now. Jerry Remy, a 2 second baseman. He's ready to play every day already. Yeah, he's got a full season in there. He's decent against lefties. A-Stealer, I think he's a double-A one of the years. Yeah, he could be your starting second baseman. Paul Hartzell's a starter 7, is okay, but obviously behind Gary Ross. So they've got options. The thing to remember when we look at these rookie classes is that you want to leave some talent for next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. So you're just going to see a lot of good rookies, and you're going to say, oh, these guys should be in the league in year 1. But they have some, you can wait a little bit on some of these guys. Oakland will be interesting, because by 76, the teardown has begun. But they still are in the dynasty era in our league. So it's like, what is Charlie Finley doing? You have to ask. Well, they already shipped they already shipped Vita Blue out. They're going with Kenny Holtzman, Catfish Hunter, Joe Rudy, Mike Torres. Now, Kenny Holtzman's got a pretty forgettable 76, no big deal. Who was he forgetting it with? The Yankees. It's not that forgettable, really. 240, yeah, 364 ERA, but he's got better years with Oakland. So we don't need this one. Catfish Hunter, is he also with the Yankees? Yeah. You know, that's a fine year, but he's got better years with Oakland as well. Joe Rudy, he's got a great 74 and 75. He's still a 1 in left field. This one's okay, but the previous year's a little bit better. 270 hitter. But this is the get. They went out in the offseason and made a deal for Mike Torres to replace Don Wilson because he actually is an Oakland A in 76. The way this works is Torres went to Baltimore, won 20 games in 75. Then he gets traded to Oakland for Kenny Holtzman, who goes to Baltimore, and then Baltimore ships Kenny Holtzman to the Yankees for Rudy May. And eventually Tippy Martinez, Rick Dempsey, and some others. But yeah, this is a heck of a nice card for Torres. And now you got a big three out there with Catfish Hunter, Holtzman, with their Oakland cards of 73 or 74, and Torres. So they have one more starter to figure out. I guess they might, because I had Al Downing and Don Wilson. They've only added Mike Torres. They still might have one more starter to get in Oakland. Let's look at their rookie class. Interesting. They got the rights to Doug Flynn, utility infielder. Nice stick. With the Cincinnati Reds, so he hit well. That's almost automatic. 283. Oh, there's a nice utility infielder if you need one. Actually, Oakland does need a utility infielder because they had Larry Brown a year ago. Orlando Gonzalez. Lee Richard. These aren't very good. Rob Dressler. Eventually plays a little bit for the Seattle. Paul Mitchell, former Oriole, future Brewer. Yeah, not very good at all. So that's the only hope the American League has, is that Oakland, the depth of Oakland starts to stall because, well, they start to stink by 76 and beyond. So, there. That's Oakland. I mean, the foundation for Oakland's already there anyway, so they're just doing window dressing for the draft. Seattle, Matty Alou, Tom Bradley, John Ellis, Danny Thompson. Well, guess what? Only one of those guys is still around, and that's Danny Thompson. And it's not very good. He's got a good 75, though. So they got to hope for a miracle out of the rookie class of 76. The good news is Strat-O-Matic created, maybe we'll see some of these guys. Yeah. So see that? Seattle estimated batting record for Larry Cox, who didn't accumulate stats in 76 because Seattle didn't come into existence until 77. The reason why Strat-O-Matic did this is because when you were buying this set, you were going to play a season at the same time that the Seattle Mariners and Toronto Blue Jays were playing. So this way they generated some cards on estimates rather than performance. So Larry Cox, it's kind of not much there. Ed Crosby, a left-handed hitting middle infielder. It's not too bad against righties. Look at the on-base percentage, it's reasonable. Very young Rupert Jones. We know he has some nice years for the Seattle Mariners later in the decade. Here's the Kansas City Royal. I think he was their first pick in the expansion draft, I want to say. He was a highly sought-after Kansas City in their farm system, I believe. Might want to get this guy on your team now before you lose him, Seattle. Dan Meyer, another future Seattle player, and always had that knack to hit lefties. I always like a guy like this. If it's just a 270 hitter, 252 hitter, the fact that you can stay in the lineup against lefties can really help the depth of this team. That means you don't need to give him a platoon. You can only have 3 platoons in your whole team. You need 6 everyday players, and Meyer at least presents an everyday player. Ron Pruitt. Well, here's another guy who can present an everyday player because he gets on base a lot. That's what we're looking. When you're building these really bad teams like Seattle here, you're at least looking for guys who can maybe play both sides so that you have some flexibility in roster building. You can't get more flexible than this guy. He can play any position, and he can stay in the lineup versus lefties or righties. So this guy will probably get in the league. Bill Stein's another decent guy here with plenty of flexibility. I think he was a White Sox. 268. Really, this is pretty reasonable. So yeah, they're going to jump on some of these. They got a lot of flexibility on which of the young future Mariners they're going to get. Glenn Abbott. Not a good year for him. You can wait on this one. Yeah, that's not good. Rick Jones. Yeah, you don't need that either. He's getting knocked around. Bill Laxton. That's a lot of homers and walks there, but he gets some lefties out. Now, Bo McLaughlin, interestingly enough, has a nice whip here. Starter 6. Reasonably high percentage versus righties. It's going to be hard to realize the very good whip because of the base runners against lefties. So this card's a little overrated, in my opinion. Has a 111 whip in the stats, but doesn't play that way, looks like. Dave Pagan. Stan Thomas. He's okay. Relief 4, starter 5. 229. Well, there you go. Yeah, you got options. As long as you got some options for Seattle a year before they come into existence, that's fine. And you can see that they have 2 years worth of players here. They can add 2 guys from this draft and then 2 more guys from the next draft without really anybody stealing or sniping any of their guys. Again, it's the Seattle Mariners. I can't imagine how they can do anything but compete for 500, maybe. That's why Oakland is where they are. They're in a very weak division. Lastly tonight, Texas. Bill Hands, Frank Howard, Joe LaHood, Dave Rader. Most of those guys are old. Will be taken in 73 or 74. We have Joe LaHood. He's got a better 74 card. Dave Rader's got a better 75 card. That's about it. So we think their farm system has really been producing players since 73. They've introduced Toby Harrah and Len Randall and Mike Hargrove and Jeff Burrows. Let's see who else is still around, still back in the farm that can help. Oh, this is a fun card for a left-handed hitting catcher because at least against lefties, you don't have to worry. He's got some walks there to keep them in the lineup. Johnny LeMaster, a 3 shortstop. As utility player, not much though. Sundberg emerges, but with a -2 arm and not much stick. Still, -2 arm is a -2 arm. Mike Bassick, long reliever. Decent against lefties. Steve Barr. Lefty reliever, walks a ton of guys. That's just too many walks. That's just not going to work. A very young Tommy Boggs, starter 7. Look at him against righties here as a starter 7. Just knocking the bats out of righties. And against lefties, that's an out. Yeah, that's fine. 350 and 90 innings. Yeah, that's all right. Jeff Turpko. Reliever. Decent reliever there. Doesn't give up a lot of hits. 238 ERA, 42 hits, 53 innings. Not bad. And Jim Umbarger, starter 6. 315 ERA. Well, they're not household names. But you can see how Umbarger, Turpko, probably the 2, and maybe Tommy Boggs. I think that's the best option for the Rangers. Well, folks, I hope the California Angels can build a team to at least keep the Oakland A's honest out west. Otherwise, it's looking like a repeat in the American League. That'll do it for the American League in 1976. Thanks for checking this out, and we'll see you next week.